Welcome to the Pretty Intense podcast. We have Christian Sundberg. He is a very special human being that at about the age of 30 remembered his pre-birth experience. He remembers that he had chosen to come to incarnate and the challenges that he was accepting, knew it would be hard. And when he came to incarnate, he was like, no. And there was too much fear. And that life was terminated. He's come to bring to our awareness just like our vastness and what we really truly are and our true nature. He's even written a book called A Walk in the Physical, and it's available online for free, or you can go buy it on Amazon or buy the audiobook. And I always recommend people, if you have the ability to buy it because it just sort of completes the cycle of energy going forth from him to you to him to all the things. And it's just so valuable. It's so beautiful. It really is like a message, like he said, of hope. I hope you enjoy. Christian's wonderful. Please hit subscribe. I really, really appreciate all the subscribes. It really shows me that the show's on the right track and you like the kind of interviews that I'm putting out there. If anyone's ever had any kind of pre-birth experience or just a spiritual experience, or this information really resonates with you, I love to read the comments and see what you guys have to say, and really just kind of richen the web of this information. It's, as he talks about, it's about sort of raising the temperature. So help raise the temperature. Today's Pretty Intense partner is Athletic Greens. I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted to nourish my gut health. I wanted to have more energy. I wanted to add more micronutrients to my body. I take it first thing in the morning before I have coffee and then before I go work out. It makes me feel so good. I'm giving my body the nutrition it craves. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and get 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/prettyintense. That's drinkag1.com/prettyintense. Check it out. How's it going? How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, very nice to meet you too. I'm so fascinated with your story and your experiences, and like there's just so much in hearing your story that I'm like, yes, because I've been fortunate enough, and I call it fortunate, to have sort of out of body experiences, whether it's been, just sitting on a beach and having some transcendental experience, or whether it's been through medicine, plant medicine. There's just like this, there's a whole nother realm, and you're just, the things that you say are right in line with the experiences I have. And I think one of them that I feel like so many of us can relate to, because we can use the word dream instead, is that when we're in a dream or in these experiences or having this pre-birth experience that you did and this out of this world stuff, is that there's no words for it. That is like, right? Like there's just no way. It's like you wake up from a dream and you go, okay, this isn't going to make a lot of sense. And how do I even put this? Like the feeling doesn't always, you can't even translate it. And so like, I just thought that, I think that feels like some of the most resonant sort of connection to your story that we can all draw upon, that there's just no words to explain these experiences.
Yeah, there's definitely no language. Language is local to our world and our assumptions. It's like forms, symbols, and our true nature just so fully transcends that set of forms in this context. So there's just no way to put language on it. I feel like every time, we even open our mouths and try, it's like we're just wrong right away because it just can't be spoken to. Yeah.
This is a weird out there question right off the bat, but
sure.
Do you think that we're supposed to get to a place where we don't really use words?
I know this may sound strange.
It's all right. This whole conversation is probably going to be a little bit.
I'm a pretty normal mainstream American guy, but I have had these experiences, and I'm passionate about speaking to these higher contexts as very real, because they are. This is not a religious belief or mythology or something. I mean, when you have these experiences, they are even more real than this experience. Mm-hmm. And in those contexts, many of those higher systems are thought responsive. So they respond to your thinking and your intention. And in those systems, when we interact with each other, the interaction is very thorough, very complete. we use the word telepathic. It's an exchange of feelings and ideas, and it's just a very full and complete exchange. That's the natural way that we communicate. Whereas here on Earth, we have to like put words in a string and throw them around and
so linear.
Yeah, it's so boring. It takes forever. Clunky. So I think
but
we are moving in that direction, like you said. I think as we continue to awaken and evolve, that is the natural direction we're moving towards. This is a pretty dense reality system, though. Our veil is pretty thick here in general, so it might take some time. But that is very natural for all of us to have that, that telepathic interaction.
Mm-hmm. And like, just to kind of elaborate more on it, because it's a space where it also feels like there's almost like you come into a knowing, right? Like it's not even like there's time. It's not normal communication like on Earth, like you say, with this whole like one word after another. It's like a arrival of information, and it was kind of told to you, but you didn't get it told in the normal linear fashion that you do here. You kind of become aware, and it feels like it's so fast, and there's so many levels of information translated. Like it's like the embodiment of it, which is, I think, why you say, when you say that they're almost more real. For me, it feels like it's so real because it becomes embodied, meaning like I don't have to reach for the thought. I never forget. And I don't even need to believe it because I just know it's true.
Exactly.
It implies like I have to effort for it, but it's just there.
Exactly. It's there. It's complete. And it's at a level of being that transcends the level where, we're here. We have to like think about things and deliberate and decide what, is it true? How does it apply to me? Yeah. What you described is excellent. It's that knowingness in our being that is so complete. And I like that you use the word embodied, because we really do feel it and know it in the wholeness of our being in a very tangible way. And it's not something that it's like so personal. It's like the most personal, real, and complete. Yeah. I don't know how else to describe it. So I think that was well said.
Oh, well, it's only because I've been listening, obviously, in the last few days to just so many more of so many recollections of your experience that it's so fresh, it's just like so fresh, that feeling. And I think the feeling is the thing, right? And so it's that's the embodiment and they say that with manifestation, that you have to put your body and you mentally go there so that your body then gets the experience of having whatever it is that you want. So you become it, you realize it fully and fully embody it. And then you can let it go and kind of let the universe take care of it in a way.
Right. Yeah. Feeling is an okay word, but it's even deeper. It's like a vibration of the being, it's a state of being, a fullness of being. So we do experience that, in a very deep way. And then the universe is listening to that vibration. So then the response back to us is in accordance with the vibration. That's why, when people talk about manifestation, we tend to talk a lot about thoughts or specific things we're focused on. But really it's that, like you described, that vibration of being that is communicative and automatically evokes a response, because consciousness is connected to that which is, and when it vibrates, when it intends, when it is a certain way, reality responds naturally. That's just how it works.
What is the true nature of our being then, according to your experiences?
Oh, well, it cannot be described, as we said. We have to turn to metaphors a lot of these times, but we could say that the true nature of our being is unlimited joy and freedom and aliveness, life itself with a capital L. Consciousness or spirit, those are two other words. It has so much in it. It's so deep and full of life and joy and love that there's no word that we can put on it to describe it. We could say it's the water of the ocean. If all that is the ocean, then the substance of spirit that we are is the water of the ocean, and each of us is like a drop of the ocean. And that stuff of the ocean, it can't be described. It's just so beyond language.
Totally. But the thing is that we know we're the ocean. The ocean doesn't know it's the ocean. Right? We can have awareness that we are aware, we have thoughts. Mm-hmm. We are aware we're more than this body. Like we have an awareness to it. We're not the ocean, not knowing it's the ocean.
There is level of self-awareness all throughout the levels. So it's very difficult to try to speak to the level of the knowing of one's being at a given level. But so I'm not sure if you're talking about it from the point of view of the human personality, trying to look up, and therefore we have some kind of cognizance, like intellectual cognizance. But at the higher levels, even at the deepest level, the knowing of beingness itself transcends all thought. It doesn't need a definition. It doesn't need to be quantified in some way like we do here. In fact, it transcends all that quantification and gives rise to it. It's deeper than the quantification, but it's very real and self-aware. Yeah.
I would love you to elaborate more on that. I'm starting to get a feel for it, but I need you to keep going.
Yeah. So at those deeper levels, they transcend form, and thought is a type of form. So when I say form, I mean like objects, distinctions of some kind. This is blue and not green. This is up and not down. I feel, well and not unwell, whatever. Okay. Thoughts are like little forms in the mind that we fall asleep into. So I am hungry. You have that thought. Now I want to eat a sandwich. I got to find a sandwich, or I want to grab the chips or whatever. The moment that you have that thought, you have fallen asleep into being that thought. Now you are the being who wants chips. That's all. That's what you are, because you're having that thought. So then when you think about whether even the thought of whether or not source is self-aware, that's a thought too, that you're having from the human personality's perspective. And it's valuable. But I'm saying then at the deepest levels, when you go all the way past all the form, that's not empty. It's full. It's full of beingness that transcends all form. There's no words to use it, that knows itself very fully and completely, but in a way that is much bigger than one specific definition. In fact, it gives rise to the opportunity for all the definitions that we're experiencing here. We're like looking back from the human perspective and saying, oh, I understand reality from the form perspective. I understand linear time and discrete location, and I understand ideas and philosophy. And then we write thousands of books about philosophy, and we try to understand, and then we spend hours talking about all the different forms. That's good. That's fine. In fact, that's helping the all to know itself from that perspective. But I'm just saying that deeper perspective, it fully transcends all those distinctions that we could possibly throw on it.
Have you been drawn to plant medicine experiences to bring you into those spaces again to get access?
I personally haven't. Personally, I'm interested in trying to navigate the human limitations in a simple, lucid way, if I can, without some kind of physical influence. In fact, I've tried binaural beats. I don't even like binaural beats. Two different pitches, one on each ear. I don't prefer that. Yeah. Do you feel, are you highly sensitive? Oh, yes. Okay. I'm so sensitive to everything.
Okay. That can usually be a total reason why I have friends that are highly sensitive and they're not drawn at all, because it's almost already sensory overload. Then the idea of invoking even more is just totally not a good idea.
Yeah. I'm not looking for a new sense experience. I'm looking, so what we're speaking to transcends even the sensory. It's a deeper state of being. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I'm definitely so sensitive that I'm very careful about all that stuff.
How has that affected you in your life, being so sensitive? Because that can be an overwhelming feeling and can lead to some challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a daily challenge for me. And I actually remember in my pre-birth experience knowing that because I asked to have a small amount of memory this time and not forget everything completely. And I knew that would necessitate sensitivity, and that would make the life potentially even more challenging. But I knew that even that level of contrast was an opportunity for growth. It was an opportunity. But now that I'm here, I mean, I have sensitivities that just nobody else has that I do.
Like what?
Every day, like sensitivities to different kinds of light. Like, for instance, I have not been able to find a computer monitor in the last 10 years that I can tolerate. I'm using an old monitor. And sensitivity to foods and sounds. But I can also feel non-physical, I know this sounds wild, but I can sense non-physical information. And I think that goes hand in hand. Like if I'm walking by someone, I might suddenly get a knowing, like we were describing, in my being, in my body, about who they are, who they really are, and maybe what they're and what their personality is within them and what they're experiencing. And I feel
A
like that
story.
goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And the story and beyond the story, it's like who they think they are, and who like I tend to sense a bit of the true nature, you know, of who somebody is beneath the character. Because that's who we really are.
I love that. I
Yeah.
relate to that on some level for sure. And the challenge in that is trusting the information and whether or not you're just a good storyteller. Do you ever find that it's hard to trust either one, or like getting used to trusting it because at first you think I'm just really good at telling stories?
Yeah, personally, I feel there's a distinct difference because it's not an earthly like type of thought or story. It's a type of like vibration that's very multi-textured, not something I can easily put a story on. In fact, sometimes when I sense it and I try to share it, I can't. There's no words. You know, how do you describe like an ocean of color or something? Like, not that I don't perceive it visually typically, but I'm just saying it's beyond that language. But I'm also, you know, discerning. Like I'm not real big on quick jumping to, you know, I sense that. I'm very, you know, open-minded, but also skeptical. And I try to always have that healthy level of, you know, discernment. But it's not something I go out and seek. You know, it's just like almost like a sense that is just so normal for me now. It's almost stronger than my other senses sometimes.
You call yourself a really normal average guy, and do you have a normal job too?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm a project manager.
How does that work out? Come on, man. How does that work out?
No,
or how do you use it? Hang on. That's actually not even fair for me to like say, why aren't you just some very like, you know, good psychic out there that can help, you know, people figure out where they're going? Or, you know, there are so many jobs that would tap directly into that awareness. But how do you use it then? Because it's totally possible to take our special skills and inject them into regular life.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I navigate the regular life every day in a way that I try to be the most genuine and authentic I can and utilize that experience because it is spiritual too. There's not like a difference. You know, this entire manifestation around us, as dense as it is limiting as it is rich with opportunity every day. And that's true even if interactions might be with, you know, someone who's not fully aware of the, you know, the higher nature of who we are. That's the norm here. You know, we're veiled as we walk around. As for not applying it in a, you know, in a professional sense, I have not personally felt super called to do that. I have felt called to share messages like this, and you know, the writing of my book, I felt deeply called to do that, to provide that, present that, and then step away even, you know, and then just let it go and let life happen as it will, you know.
Your book is called A Walk in the Physical, and did I hear you say it was free?
Yeah, I have a copy on my website that can be read online for free. Yep.
Wow.
It's not about the money. It's more important, I feel, to share the message. It is available on Amazon or on Audible. I'm really touched by, you know, the number of people who've reached out about the book. And, you know, it's funny, when I was writing, so I say when I was writing, I actually don't even feel like I wrote it all the way. I feel like chunks came to me over 6 years, one bit at a time. And then when I made it available, I almost felt like it wasn't mine. It was something that needed to be in the world, and that was it. And now I feel like I could even just walk away and it would be fine. So I'm excited about it, but I also don't feel like, oh, it's my book. That's not really how it is.
There's almost like a feeling like there's some kind of imposter syndrome to try and take credit for something you feel like you didn't have to effort for, because like there's this seeming rule in life where unless you effort for something, you didn't really earn it. What you're describing is the true nature of everyone, though.
Yeah. You're
just aware you're doing it.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. And that's something that can't be, you know, quantified or monetized. That's all. You know, when we speak to unconditional love is unconditional. That the true nature of spirit, the true nature of what we are, and the nature of source is unconditional love, fully giving, fully open. You know, how can anybody like put a price tag on that? Or, you know?
The most beautiful message that I got from my most deepest, soberest experience was that there's no need for forgiveness because there was never a judgment in the first place. Amen. That's how pure the love is. That's how true and all-encompassing and deep, and it's literally everything. It's just like you're totally loved, and there's no need for forgiveness because there was never even a judgment.
Absolutely. Absolutely, totally unconditional love. And it's like we're already goodness. We're already innocent. You know, we just fell asleep into the dream of form and into the feet. So when we fall into the dream of form, we have fear because we haven't yet fully integrated this. And when we have fear, we have ego rise up. And ego is just the attempt to fix this huge fear problem that rose up now. And we're all running around like, you know, a bunch of kindergartners trying to make ourselves feel better. And, you know, I'm better now because I'm a part of this group, or I can have this object, or I can have this power, you know, like whatever, all the millions of manifestations of ego. But at the heart, our true nature is already complete love and joy and freedom and innocence. You know, we are good at our very core. That is true of all people.
Yeah, I actually really totally believe that too. Even the ones that do bad things, you don't know what kind of experience they had when they were young, or what's been passed on from the family generation through cellular memory or ancestral memory. You don't know what they thought they had to do to survive.
Oh yeah, there's so much conditioning, and not just in one human life too. We're talking about a context that's even much bigger than that, a history that's even much bigger. But from the spiritual perspective, from that higher perspective, there's complete understanding. There's complete vision. It's like, oh, I see exactly why you experienced the way you did. Oh, wow, you actually really were, you know, I mean, you see the amazing qualities of the other, and there's just so much profound love that rises up for the other. I'm reminded of an experience I had years ago where this is early in my awakening process, and I had an out-of-body experience where I know this sounds strange as well, but I saw and felt the soul of my wife's ex-boyfriend, who at the time I wasn't a fan of. This is early in my awakening, so I had silly ego, you know, things going on there.
Sure.
But I felt about his nature, oh my goodness, the way that his spirit and my wife's overlapped, and how they shared this beautiful creative power, and that how his being and my being overlapped, and we shared this love of honor, this like deep ancient love of honor. And I could feel how in his life he had been squashed by lack of love. Like he had been born into a family where he was not loved by his parents. And it felt like a car tire that rolled over Play-Doh and flattened it super, super thin. And then from that thinness, he's trying to live and create. And I was, oh my gosh, I have so much honor. I just respect and love this man so much. And now when I see him, I mean, now we're close. And now when he comes over, every time I see him, I feel like kneeling to the guy.
Wow.
Because I'm like, I cannot believe what you're doing.
With so little.
He's doing so much with so little. I'm like, I can't believe what you're doing here on earth. This is amazing. I just want to honor his journey. And that's how it is from spirit for all of us. You know, we're seen for the rigor that we've had to operate in and through.
Yeah. Talk about the, first off, I want to go to the in-between, and then I want to work into like reincarnation and the choices and all the things.
Okay.
But what is that in-between life like? Not life. What is the in-between a human life like? And is that essentially what you were seeing in that pre-birth experience? Is the in-between?
Yeah. So this context is very vast. So we like to narrow it down to simple. There's like earth level, and then there's like in between level, and then tell me about that level, you know, because here on earth, that's kind of how we think of places, you know. Well, even on earth, think of how many places there are, and we're in a very limiting system.
Right.
So I'm just saying that as a context, because the scope of being and the scope of activity that is available to the soul when not limited to an incarnation is unspeakably vast.
Yeah.
But I can at least say from my experience, I remember having experiences in different layers that led up to the choice to incarnate and to be Christian. And I remember being in a realm of golden light. I remember this being coming to me and asking me if I wanted to go back yet, if I was ready yet, and then reviewing this life. I had a previous incarnation attempt first that did not work out because I rejected it out of fear. And anyway, so that whole process takes place in a similar level, and there are many different places in it, but they're transversed by thought alone, intention. So you just intend, or you want to be somewhere, and you're there. And there's so many different aspects of that. I can't possibly put language on it. I can say the closest to when I actually incarnated, like, again, this transcends linear time too. So it's
Totally. Yeah.
really hard to
Yeah.
speak to. But at the point that was closest to incarnation, I was in a place that appeared to be, as an example, we like environment, so I can at least describe one environment. I was in this room that looked like a technician's chamber, and it was over the earth, and there was like a shaft leading down to the earth, and there were these beings there that are like veil application technicians, something like that. And that place was very close vibrationally to earth, but still, pre-incarnation. So I still had all my knowing. I could see the earth, but I wasn't in that layer. I wasn't at that vibrational density. The incarnation process is like a plummet of vibration down to resonate into this comparatively very, very dense experience by comparison.
So kind of in a way, you don't really actually go anywhere.
Exactly.
Because you're everything and everywhere. You don't go anywhere. You just lower your frequency down so much to experience this super dense, linear, time-consuming, fear-based reality.
Exactly.
You're like, wow, we're having, oh my God, being a human is the dark night of the soul itself.
It is. It's the most dense, most opportunity offering, limiting. Wow. So those are synonymous. Opportunity offering and limiting are synonymous. Opportunity that's handed to us, and that's right. We don't actually ever leave. It's like the experience plays upon the movie screen of our awareness, and we seem to be locked into it. I mean, of course, that's the very nature of being veiled. It seems like this is all there is. That's the name of the game. But our consciousness is actually still there. You could say that a subset of the self is like committed into the physical experience, but the whole self is always outside of it. It's like, you could say metaphorically, it's like falling asleep in heaven to have the dream of earth. When you wake up in the morning, you never left your bed. Similarly, when you wake up after physical death, you never left. You never were in any real danger.
Well, I get very tripped out on how the universe works and sort of the fractal nature of it, and how, it's hard to put into words. I can kind of like feel this sort of looping almost. And it's like a black hole, almost like it sucks it in, and then, new galaxies are born. And it's like, it feels like there's almost an aspect within us that does that. And because there's no other, I try and rationalize, and maybe we're just not even capable of it as human beings. And maybe it's not within our sort of data computing capabilities, but things like quantum entanglement and things like, we can't imagine that with our linear life that we live here, that something on opposite ends of the universe can communicate instantaneously.
That's because the universe is virtual. It's all being simulated at once. So the communication is outside of the universe, because that which is generating the universe is already connected to itself. It doesn't need distance. Distance is an illusion. You can think of it that way. Like we believe in distance, a lot, but distance is just a visual experience, a sensory experience, an idea. It's all these forms. It's an illusion. But anyway, I like what you said about the fractal nature of reality, because it very much is like that. So above, so below, as it said, the quality of the spirit is such that we do have fractals of being. You have the source that has individuated into drops. You have each drop, each soul that is individuated into different personalities that appear from a given personality's perspective as separate, but they're not separate. They're one. Mm-hmm. You are all your characters that you've played. You're the same you. Anyway, so it is like that. It's like a huge fractal system within consciousness.
I was just, I interviewed a guy named Shervin. He has a cool company called Symbiotica, and he's very spiritual and has been sort of walking in this world for since he was like 10. And we were talking about the evil forces that would be controlling the planet, and is there an Illuminati or a cabal, or is there a deep state? And he described it in a way that was like, it's not that there's a group. And we kind of deduced it down to the fact that it's actually just a macro of the micro, which is that it's an aspect within us. Like this sort of like greed or materialism it's on the micro version, it's an aspect within us, and that the real solution is not necessarily to point the finger and be a victim. It's
Right.
to fix it within yourself, because when we all do that, it's all fixed.
Absolutely. The simplest way I feel to put that is that it's all fear. Fear that is we rejected something. We're not okay with something, and so we grab for control. That's what the ego does. And that happens in many different layers. It happens in groups, it happens in individuals. But the thing is that external environment is not the active playing field for real change. I mean, it will fix itself if the real environment is addressed, and that is consciousness itself. So the simplest way to put that is face your own fear. Own your own crap in your life and find the joy and the love that you already are, that got buried underneath all these other things. Maybe it even got buried at the moment you incarnated. Now you're physical. You don't like being separate from everybody else. That's okay. Find the real you in there. Face the fear, process it, allow it. That actually helps the entire collective to heal, because we're all connected. Like, we're a part of one pond, one soup. And when one of us does that and really finds the love and processes the fear, it's like a light that goes off for everybody else in the pond, and it raises the temperature of the water for the whole pond. So we're not powerless. You know, we tend to look external all the time. Oh, look at the political parties, look at the laws, look at the face your own fear and know that there's nothing to fear, and that you are love and you are joy. And if you find that in your life, you will change the world. You'll just, that vibration will affect the whole world, rather than being lost in this idea of hopelessness that we can't affect the world. It's not true.
There's a thought that, you know, there's like the 3 waves of volunteers that someone like Dolores Cannon has made popularized. Crystal children, indigo children,
star seeds,
that these are all, you know, waves of entities that come and incarnate as a human to help the planet. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe it is true. So I didn't have specific experience with the 3 waves of volunteers in my pre-birth experience, but I did know from the pre-birth standpoint, it was just like seen as just obvious that the earth is going through an awakening process, and that's very exciting. It's like the act of the play is the awakening act. And so there is I'll just simply say this. I feel like there was a calling for those who are able to contribute to come and participate, because if we have higher vibrational nature, I don't mean that in a duality sense, because I'm not trying to compare anybody to anybody else. It's not like that. But if we have experience in higher systems and we're loving and involved, and we come into the human experience, even if we don't remember, which we don't typically, and even if we don't know exactly what we're doing, our mere presence affects the pond, because now we're a part of it, and our vibration is automatically affecting the vibration of the whole pond. So a lot of the younger people today are very loving and wise beings, and they've come into this world, and we'll see what happens. It's exciting.
To do what?
So the earth is going through an awakening process, which just means we are processing our old fear crap and moving vibrationally closer to what we really are, which is love and acceptance and freedom and joy. There's a huge vibrational distance, though, because the human collective consciousness has a long history with all sorts of nastiness, all sorts of fear-based ego patterns. But those ego patterns are being faced and processed by many individuals. And so we might see on the surface there's a lot of conflict at times. Well, that crap has to come up and be seen in order to be processed and faced and felt and healed. And so that healing that happens is something that changes the collective consciousness. It sets a new momentum, a new direction, which continually raises the temperature of the water. That's just the metaphor for raising the vibration of the human consciousness. That is happening. It is in the process now. Like I'm energetically sensitive, like I mentioned. So I feel like when I go into larger groups, I can feel the difference now compared to even 10 years ago. There's quite a notable difference. And we might look on the surface and say, oh man, everything is a mess. Well, there's a lot of fear in there, but this is happening. We are awakening, and love is growing, actually.
I agree with you. I mean, as much as it's scary and nasty out there, the conversation we're having and a lot of the other conversations I have on the show, or just even with my friends, are not conversations that you could have with almost anybody.
Yeah.
And that's probably why, I mean, it wasn't all that long ago that you came forward with your story, right?
Yeah, that's right. So my body is 43 right now. I was about 38, I believe, when I came out with my story, but my pre-birth memory returned at the age of 30. So there was about 8 years that I didn't share. I didn't feel like it was appropriate, and I didn't want to take that professional risk, you know. But then I just had this sense like, okay, the ground is fertile enough now. Like the soil is just fertile enough. And so I shared, and I'm very glad that I did.
The island is just big enough, because for so long, like even when I started, getting very interested and deep into spirituality and curiosities of that in all aspects of it.
Yeah.
I just was thought of as weird. Like I remember being called weird, and it was like, I felt like I was on an island, right? And it's like,
yeah.
You feel like you're on an island, so your island got bigger.
Oh my. Well, I can say with certainty there are thousands of people out there who, I mean, millions even, who feel like that. They sense, even if they don't know what it is, that there's more going on than what they see on the surface. Yeah. And a lot of people have experiences and just don't have anybody to share them with, and I feel like that's one of the greatest blessings since I've shared is I've been able to meet so many amazing people. There are a lot out there.
Did you come into awareness that there was ever a point in time on this planet where we were like the golden age? Was there ever a point in time where it was love, it was coherence, there was peace, there was a higher vibrational operating level? Or is this been a sort of gradual increase since inception of the planet 4.3 billion years ago or whatever it was?
I don't know. I would guess the second one, but I don't know.
Because you said you aborted the previous life to this one because fear took over and was too much. Yeah. And so do we choose the life that we have? Do we choose our parents? Do we choose our friends? Do we incarnate with a soul family to make it easier? Like, how is it that we come into the experience that we're having in this life?
Yeah, so we absolutely choose to come. I know that that's strange when so many people feel that their lives are difficult and, they're suffering. And so many people would say, I would never sign up for this. Well,
we have really big balls when we're on the other side.
Yes.
We're like, I got this. I mean, I think that about myself as I say that to myself regularly. I'm like, Danica, seriously, what did you sign up for?
No.
What did you think that you had the balls for here?
Okay. So it's so funny because what you just described, I actually remember doing. So I remember seeing the vibrational distance and going, holy crap, that is further than I've ever done. Can it even be done? Because it was so, like, in my case, it was one very specific vibration, one fear that I came to process and heal. And it was so vibrationally low that I was like, how is it even possible? And I was told, yes, it is. And I just knew, like, if it can be done, then I will do it, because I knew what we are. We are unlimited, immortal beings who can't fail. We can't fail. Like, we can't actually fail, but we can get underneath the weight bench and put 150 or 200 or 500 pounds on there and give it a shot, and then once we get underneath the weight, the thing about this weight bench is once you're strapped into the roller coaster, you can't get off. That's the name of the game. We want to be committed into a context that we can't easily escape. That way we have to be, quote unquote, forced to face ourselves, to face our limitations, to face our fears, to overcome them, to see if we can really be there for each other in compassion and love and kindness, even when it's hard. So anyway, we do see that context pre-life, and everybody has a different, intentionality behind their incarnation. It's very specific to the soul and their qualities and what they're interested in, and specific to the life and the context. There's a huge variety there. So I can't speak to everybody, but I can at least say that, yes, we do review the context, and it is a necessity that it be a choice, voluntary, because the soul, the spirit, is sovereign. It's a part of source. There's no greater authority. Nothing can lock it away. Nothing can limit it, unless it limits itself, unless it surrenders itself into a limitation by itself, within itself, which is what we do. So my memory then I remember surrendering to the veil, and that process of giving over my knowing and giving over my power and surrendering, and even that prompting that initial fear, because that's a huge loss of control.
Why the hell do we do it? Is it exciting? Like, do we look at this fraction of time that we experience and we go back to are more of our true nature. And it was a great experience. No matter what it was like, wow, that was a thriller. It's like going into a movie that you got really scared in, but you came out and you're like, oh my God, that was crazy, wasn't it?
Okay. That's not a bad metaphor.
Or is it because there is truly like something happening that has a ripple effect into the universe and we're helping with it? Like, is there a bigger purpose other than just like, that was fun?
Yeah, both. And the latter is that we are participating in the expansion of love and joy through evolution. We're evolving. That's just a simple word. That's a simple English word, but I'm speaking about the evolution of spirit. That is the refinement of spirit. Now, at the same time, it's already perfect. So I know this sounds like a paradox from duality's point of view, but when applied into the imperfect, into duality, we are imperfect. At a given point, we're only so good at manifesting, and manifesting is maybe the wrong word. We're only so good at actualizing our true loving nature in a given context at a given point in time. And we seek to push the boundaries and see how much more can we do and how much more can we know, like actually feel and experience. Contrast is like a gift because it gives you the opportunity to experience the low so that you can also know the high at the same time. It's maybe like if you take a balloon and you blow up the balloon and you make it really big, and then you lock it in place. You tie it. Now it's stuck with all this air in it. It's a little bit like what we've done here. We've come vibrationally down, 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 down. We've been locked into a position. Now, in this position, can you make the loving choice? In this position, can you feel a certain emotion? How do you respond to it? In this position, can you find who you really are? Can you love the person next to you? Can you know joy here? Can you overcome fear? How do you respond to pain or loss? In this position. And then when you take the position back away now, see, all that work that you did out here is magnified by that distance you did the work at. You know, that depth of it's like a depth of being that is, I don't want to use the word carved out because that sounds pretty gruesome, but a depth of being that is refined and deepened. And then when you take that depth of being into other thought responsive reality systems, it has an impact immediately. Like I was inspired to incarnate because I could see and feel from a being who had incarnated. Oh my gosh, he was full of so much power and joy. Wow. He was able to feel joy that I couldn't even understand. I
picture it almost like a food pyramid, and how like in a food pyramid, like if you are the very top, it's like if you come down to earth to this like big base level, but you actually shift and change the big base level, it affects everything. Like,
yes,
there's no, it's like foundational. It's essentially your foundational awareness, foundational frequency. Like it richens the rest.
Yes, it enriches the whole, and the foundational level is actually where we start. But yes, it is like going down, 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 and then it's like if you put on a 20-pound coat or a 50-pound coat or a 100-pound coat, you get to pick which one you want. And then you go for a run, you know, and then you come back and you take the coat off and you're like, oh my gosh, that was heavy. But now you're stronger in a way that you may have been enabled to do something or know something or even feel something that someone else who hasn't worn that coat hasn't felt. And so there's this allure, you could say, of vibrational distance. The deeper the vibrational distance, the more the opportunity. And so that's why a lot of souls are like, oh man, sign me up, man. Put me in for the give me the hard class, give me the hard stuff, you know. And then it's usually the guides who are like, okay, I think you're biting off a little too much this time. Let's rein that back in a little bit. And you're like, oh, but I want to do it all at once. I want to, you know, just chill out a little bit and try to find, you know, and even I'm
glad you mentioned guides, because that was what I wanted to ask next, was about guides, angels, ascended masters, ancient goddesses, like, you know, ancient Egyptian or Greek, or, you know, what do you know about that? Because that just seems like such a mystery land of like, were they real? Were they not? Were they just stories to help with understanding and coping? Were they, you know, what are they? Were they extraterrestrials?
Yeah.
Do they live in all realms? Like, is it just a frequency? Like, what role do guides and angels and ascended masters play?
Yeah, we can just say this: consciousness. We are consciousness. You're consciousness. I'm consciousness. So is every other being. Consciousness has a huge variety of experiential opportunity given to it. we don't have to be physically incarnated. That's just one thing. Not everybody goes to college, or not everybody goes to, Cedar Point and rides a roller coaster. That's something you can choose to do if you want, but not everybody does that. So I'm just saying there's a huge variety of individuals, you could say. Individuals, whether they're physically incarnated or not. And individuals tend to grow through experience or evolve in certain qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And so then beings who are very adept at certain qualities tend to be able to help others with those qualities. And we call those guides. Guides could be beings who have been physically incarnated or beings who have not, but they might be really good at a certain vibration. We also tend to have personal guides, a being that knows us really well and tends to kind of follow us and track us throughout the process.
Right,
and
I've
give
heard
us
that.
nudges.
We all have like one main guide.
One or a few, yeah.
Or a few, or like 3 or 4 or something. But
who know us really well. And so there's a huge variety to what that might mean. Some beings are incredibly evolved and powerful. And so, I mean, it's hard to get into too many specifics, but I'm trying to make a broad comment because there's such a breadth to what a guide could be or who a guide might be. It could be a living person that we knew physically who passed on, and they have a relationship with us and they love us. And because they love us, they come back and they just kind of watch over, and they know from that side, oh, wow, that was a cool video game. And then from that point of view, they can maybe help or guide or nudge us. And then when we exit the game, they're there for us, So that's just another possibility. Yeah, ascended masters we might put in that category too. Those are beings who have had a lot of, I tend to think of ascended masters as beings who have a lot of incarnational experiences and have basically mastered the course, the college, the physical universe experience has been mastered.
Jesus, Krishna, Buddha,
right.
Like those kinds of,
right.
Kuan Yin or Green Tara or, Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene, those kinds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to label any given person with any given title, but yes, that's right. Beings who have mastered the course, and no longer respond in fear. So what does that mean, mastering? It has to do with fully integrating the breadth of experience that is possible here, such that they are able to bring love into all context, even, say, being hung on a cross, as an example.
Right. So you say the names don't matter, but if these ascended masters are to help us and they are helpful, they are able to attune to a certain frequency that they're most helpful with.
I didn't mean to say that names don't matter. I just meant I didn't want to draw a distinction between, this person is an ascended master and that one isn't. I'm not going to do that.
But the names are to be able to access that frequency, or tune into it. So it's helpful to still address them, right? It's still,
yes,
if you want to say like, Jesus, I need your help with this. Like, what does that do?
Yeah, it's like a Google search.
I love that.
Except in spirit, the Google search engine's way better, way faster, and always listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's your intention that is really entering the search engine, and the name or the form is just the way that by. The system can interpret that very successfully. So like, you don't even need to call a person by their name in your mind, of course. If you have a loved one that passed, you don't need to say, okay, loved one named so-and-so,
True.
if you just intend and you have that love in your heart and you reach out with your mind and with your intention, intention is the movement of consciousness. That is automatically having an effect. Same thing with calling out to an ascended master, for instance.
Is it easy for you to have this kind of intentional dialogue with any entity or energy that you want?
No, I'm quite veiled. I'm very much veiled, and I'm thankful that I am. But I do, I feel that I have a constant interaction with spirit and God, you could say. I'm not super careful in my own mind about different distinctive names because once you sense the oneness of being that we are, there's like all the form definitions and walls are so much less relevant. They're just much less relevant. I'm not saying they're not important, but they're less relevant. If
you were to call out whatever you feel like your greatest skill or spiritual skill is, what is it?
Oh boy. I am deeply at a soul level interested in understanding cross-dimensional expression and how do I describe this? It's really hard to describe these things. Cross-dimensional knowing and like a system context mastery, and then being able to hopefully quantify it in a concise way. I love that. And I feel like my book, A Walk in the Physical, for instance, is my attempt at, as a physical human, to try to bring down that very vast into succinct, digestible language. And that's something that my soul loves to do. You know, I won't say a skill or whatever. We all do have things we're strong at. I feel like that cross-dimensional proficiency, you might say, is something that is a great joy to me.
How has it helped you in your life?
That's what we are. I mean, when you know what we really are, we are joy. So the question is a little bit like saying, how does joy help you in your life? Joy is not about necessarily even a physical outcome. It's just when you know joy, it's wonderful because that's what we are. And when we can feel joy and know that joy here, wow, you know, because here, like I said, we're locked all the way out in this position. If we can find who we are here and express it and share it with each other and love each other and really authentically meet each other, even in a simple way, like a small way. Oh my gosh, it's so powerful. I take joy in that if possible. I mean, I'm still very much veiled. I have my own personal great limitations. I have fear still, of course. You know, I have challenges like every other human, of course. But the question is, what do we do with the challenges? And how do we allow that true nature to meet the challenges, like honestly, authentically, right? Really honest with ourselves? Where am I weak? What fear have I locked away that I don't want to feel today? What feeling do I not want to feel today? What self-belief, or, you know, whatever the thing is that's triggering. Anytime we feel anything negative, what is the illusion that I have bought into?
Right. I love the idea that, or the visualization or embodied feeling of that, if sort of anything feels uncomfortable or feels bad, is because whatever that thing is out of resonance with your true self.
That's right. Amen.
Your true self is never that. So if you don't feel good, it's because you're out of resonance. Something is putting you in a position where you have to do something or say something or be someone, and it's not who you are. Yeah,
you've bought into a self-perception that is not in alignment with the truth of who you are. So for instance, deep down, on the surface, it might be this person flicked me off in the interstate, and now I'm mad. But deep underneath all the layers of ego, what really might be going on is I feel powerless, and I'm upset that I feel powerless. Whatever it is, whatever that negative self-perception at the root is that you think reality is proving to you, that negative self-perception of feeling either powerless or unworthy of love, or, you know, some of the other, like I'm not free, that's another big one, not having freedom. Those are not in alignment with the truth. The truth is you are a powerful being. You are unconditionally loved. You are love itself. And you are completely and totally free. But when you lose yourself in the idea of not being free, that hurts. That triggers fear. When you lose yourself in the idea of being shameful, unworthy of love, that sucks because it's not true. So whenever we have that negative, we can honestly look inside of ourselves and say, where do I have fear? And what negative self-perception has the world seemed to prove to me? The illusion of the world, I might add, has it seemed to prove to me is real. It's not really fundamentally real, but it's giving you the opportunity to be really in your face and really give you the chance to identify with potentially these perceptions and play with them. What kind of powers do we have here? I get that we're infinite beings, we're love, like all these things, but like doesn't feel practical. What are our tools here? And what are our tools right now? And what are we stepping into? Because it does feel like we're stepping into something. We're moving into another level of us that has access to more of something. So what are our tools here right now, and what should we be working to cultivate? Right. So on a practical level, we are constantly affecting reality, physical reality all the time. Like we're nudging the probabilities all the time. I know most people believe in an objective material world. It only appears to be an objective material world. It's actually probabilistic in nature. Our intention does affect outcome. all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just
So
one
it's
thing to
not
point out.
predetermined. So it's not
It's not
predetermined.
predetermined. It's a probabilistic reality where intention is constantly nudging all the time.
Got it.
All the time. So I'm just pointing out that mechanism, but what's the power behind that mechanism? And that is intent. Our true power is our intent. What are we really intending in this moment? How are we really using this moment? You could say the most direct way to comment on that question is, what is your relationship to this moment? Are you making it an enemy, or are you in love with it? Is it in love with you? If it's not in love with you and you're not in love with it, that's okay. Find out where you bought into something that made it an enemy. Oh, but I went through years and years of trauma, and I'm, whatever the story is, that immediately rises up in anger because the ego is pissed. It raises its righteous fist and it says, I have good reason to call this universe cruel and me a victim. Are you willing to let go of that, actually, and find how you actually do have the power to even feel that negative fear, whatever it was you locked away, whatever it was that all those years of abuse or whatever it was seemed to prove to you? Are you willing to actually go feel that and honor yourself, love yourself enough to actually meet your own experience all the way? Now, that may sound indirect to your question, but it's not. It's not indirect, because the quality of our experience directly is reflective of the quality of what we've done within ourselves as spirit.
When you go into these dark aspects of yourself, of something you fear or something that you're jealous of or something that you're angry about, you have to go through the pain. It's like on a micro level, that's what's happening here on Earth. But on a macro level, you go, I'm going to go into this incarnation to learn this thing, to elevate to a higher level out here. And it's just sort of just bigger and smaller versions of it, but they're all the self.
There's an important point here that I think is often missed. So sometimes when we hear a conversation like this, we think, oh, there's something I need to do. And the thing I need to do is to go, face my fears and do these things. Okay, that's true, but there's something deeper than the doing, and that is your actual willingness to feel or to be or to do whatever. And I'm pointing that out because you mentioned avoiding pain, willingness to feel the pain. This willingness I'm talking about means for the pain that you've buried away your whole life, this is not about avoiding that anymore. If you really want to open up all the gates, it's about actually being willing to go feel the pain. Willing. That means you no longer make it an enemy. You say, you know what? I feel powerless to this, but I'm going to feel it anyway. I'm going to go see. I'm going to go into the dark closet and see, is this thing really going to destroy me or not? And that requires feeling. It's a very personal and genuine and real process. It's not about, like as humans on the surface, we're all about activity. Do this activity, get this result. Tell me what activity I can do so I can get away from this pain that I have. This is more than activity. It's who you are. It's the actual quality of choice that you make. And the universe, that's what it's watching. It's not watching necessarily the activity. It's watching your willingness to admit your issues, to own yourself, to own your pain, to feel your pain, to actually help the person next to you, to actually be willing, to actually choose joy, even though that might mean that you have to be vulnerable to be full of joy right now. To be a little kid and run around and play in the sun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a quality of being choice is all I'm saying. It's not primarily about an action.
Where are we going? Are humans not going to be humans as we know it, or something completely different? Like, where are we going?
I'm understanding your question to mean, where are we going as a physical species? But I want to comment in the context, though, that we're not human. I know that sounds totally crazy. I know that sounds totally crazy, but we're not human. You're you. You're the you that feels like you to you. That's who you are. And you think that you means human really deeply, but that's not what you are. So where are we going? We are the players. We are the souls. We're going even beyond the limitation of the human condition. We're going to into experiences I can't possibly even imagine yet name. But as a physical species, the physical species will end up over time reflecting more and more that limitless nature of spirit. It just might take what we would consider a long time,
right?
Which is not a big deal to spirit. Linear time is a creation anyway. It's not a big deal.
Do you remember other lives that you had, non-human, or?
I have some. Yeah, I have some snippet.
What's the span of experiences that you remember?
Well, I know I've had hundreds of other incarnative experiences, but I only remember snippets from a few. I remember a couple that are non-human, and I remember one as a human woman. So if I get curious and I try to investigate, I usually get this gentle nudge like, no, you don't need to go see that right now. And I'm fine with that. Like, okay, no problem. I'm Christian right now. So I know that I've had other experiences. And when I say I've had other experiences, that's really important. It's not, because sometimes I think when we think of reincarnation, we think, oh, those are other people and I'm them. No, it's you. It's the same. Like if you go do something on Monday night and then you go do something on Tuesday night, like you go to dinner one night and go to a movie the next night and go to a race car track the next night, whatever it is, it's still you going to each of those experiences. There's not really a different person. You might be a slightly different person on Tuesday night than you were on Monday night. And you might be a slightly different person on Wednesday night than Tuesday night. That's how it is as a soul. We have one experience and then we have another experience, but it's the same you. So you're never not going to be you.
Processing trauma and going into these dark spaces that we're afraid to go, and becoming a different person, or being afraid almost that you'll become a different person. It's like, you'll never lose your essence ever.
Absolutely.
Like your home frequency that people feel won't ever change. It's really just how you change, how you feel in that frequency. Like that's the crazy thing about growth and like becoming more of an observer and not getting so wrapped up in things and getting so pulled and torn and victim and that, and oh my gosh, that, and division. And it's like, you actually, your reality sometimes changes. There's definitely no bones about it. Like sometimes some things in your reality change, but for the most part, you just feel better in it.
Yeah. So what feels not good is when you've associated with things that you're not.
Right.
That's what feels not good. Fakeness, negative self-perceptions that aren't you. Yeah. That's what doesn't feel good. The real you is full of joy. You're joyful. You're a joyful being. You are. You just, and I like, you might say, no, I have this long story. Like I said, all this history that proves to me that that's not true. That's okay. You've had that experience. Now what? You're still you. You're still the joyful you underneath all those layers. Always. Yeah. It's really a message of hope. I mean, we come so far deep into this human experience. We really get lost in the story, and it's an opportunity. It's a gift. And we've become so lost now that we kind of made it into a little bit of a nightmare sometimes. You know what I mean? So, but now that we're here, we never lose who we really are. Yeah. The question is, what do we do now in this moment with remembering, even just a little bit? When I say remember who you are, I don't mean you need to have a big old, grand experience. I'm talking like when you look at the sunset and you feel the joy in your body, or you feel like, oh my gosh, like life is good. And notice how that is not just a feeling or an idea. It's your very stuff, your very nature, your being, your consciousness itself actually is that reflecting back to you in the form of a sunset. That's all. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Speaking of reflecting back, soul families, there's soulmates, there's twin flames, and how we're on earth, but there's also other fractions of us, and that we may be split off, and there's a twin flame somewhere out there, and it might not be even a human, right? But there's another essence, or there's many. I've also heard there's many. So I don't know if on the other side you were able to see whether or not there are sort of really close home frequencies, and also maybe your own home frequency within incarnations.
Oh, well, we do have our own home frequency. We are who we are, beautifully, wonderfully. The idea of twin flame has several different meanings. Some people talk about it as being a romantic soulmate, as most optimal for you. Some people reference it as another incarnation of the same soul, you, another portion of you. I don't know much about how often that happens. I do know that the soul incarnates and does multiple things at the same time. So it's definitely not off the table. In fact, I think it does happen that the soul has it can play multiple personalities at once, even within the same time period. I have no idea how common that is. But that home vibration that you are is always you. And then that vibration is more or less resonant with others. And in higher systems, there's like a vibrational geography going on. Like here on Earth, I mentioned this before, but this is the place where you can put two people in a room and now they got to be stuck together. Like that kind of thing. They might be discordant, and yet they're in a room together. Typically in higher systems, you go where you vibrate, you go where you resonate with. You are what you are, and you fit over here, and you prefer over here. I mean, I'm being general in that, but that still then happens somewhat on Earth, just in a slower way. So we tend to attract others that we resonate with on some level, whether it be a fear that we're manifesting, or a deeper soul quality or something else.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's good. It's good to know we got some family out there that
we're all family.
A certain frequency that is closer to whatever we are. And look, if that shifts and evolves over time into different frequencies and groups, then so be it. That's what we're here to do, right?
Yeah, we are all family, actually. There's no such thing as a stranger. Strangers only happen when we have the illusion of separation, and then we don't remember and we don't feel connected. So we think external people that we have no history with are strangers. That's what we call strangers. But truly, we're all connected. We're all brothers and sisters, every one of us, not just humans, but animals.
What about the extraterrestrials?
It's the same. There's not a big difference between, like, I know that sounds super crazy because, oh my gosh, now we're talking about ETs, but the soul has many different opportunities to incarnate, not just Earth. Okay, Earth is precious. It's very unique. I was able to feel and know the incredible, unique preciousness of Earth. But it's not the only show in town. It's not the only class you can go to. It's not the only place. There's other systems with incredibly different vibrations, not just in our entire universe, but there are entire other universes available. I mean, this is a huge context. So yes, they're all...
So a multiverse.
Yes, a multiverse. So we are brothers and sisters with the other beings that might not be physical either. Like I said, you're not a human. We're not human. We're us. We're you, and you're you, and I'm me, and that's what we are. We're just playing human.
Do you think that we'll have true, real contact and knowledge and confirmation of extraterrestrials on Earth, or is that?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. Yeah.
Have you met that? Did you?
No, I have no direct experience with what we would call an ET. I do have one memory of what I suspect was probably I don't want to label it in any way, but an intelligent civilization that was not human. I think I have at least one experience in that. But other than that, I've had no direct experiences myself with what we would call ETs. I have interacted at times with other people's guides or their deeper selves, but I don't draw a big distinction. Like I said, it's not really the form, and it's hard to speak to.
Yeah, so much of it is. But I think you do such an incredible job of being able to articulate, and truly all you need is really one of these kinds of mystical experiences to be able to hear what you're saying, and because you do actually put words to it that resonate, that's why your story is so important, and why so many people have paid attention to it, is because you're able to put words to it. So I know it's a struggle, but we all appreciate you doing it.
Thank you. Just one small comment. It's not that you need to have an experience. I heard you say there that it might trigger an experience. Experiences may happen. I mean, out-of-body experiences are more real than this. They're very real and lucid. But you don't need to have that kind of experience. Who you really are, like, basically follow your intuition. Feel inside yourself. Who are you, and what does your deeper self say is the path toward that? Maybe it's letting go of something. Maybe it's a habit. Maybe it's some self-belief that you need to investigate, or some self-worth, or that you can lift up, or whatever. Everybody is unique. So I'm just lifting that up because it doesn't need to be some grand experience. We are spirit having a human experience. That's just what we are. Yeah. So the question then is, as spirit, because you are spirit right now, as spirit who is in the middle of the play, how do you intuit? How do you feel is the best way to nurture that and to find that here while you're on Earth? You're allowed to do it. There's actually no reason you can't wake up to all that you are here. There's no hard rule against it.
Really?
The veil works. It's super effective. But the thing is, this is a stage that we get to use how we choose. It's completely up to us. And if we would like to wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm on a stage. Why is everybody so serious? We're allowed to do that if we want, or we can lose ourselves, in the drama and play some drama for a while. That's fine. 100 years.
That might be a fun little fraction of your experience. They go right. That lifetime was crazy.
Yep.
Well, I yes, but I also, in some of my experience, one in particular experience on psilocybin, I knew I wasn't human.
Yeah.
And I asked when I came back, and I realized, because there is so much information in that space. It was like question, answer,
Yeah.
question, answer,
Instant. Yeah.
but simultaneous, almost like telepathy level speed, right? Where you
Yep.
just, and I go, I can't, I said, how am I going to bring this information back to the humans? And
No.
the information and the energy was like, you don't need to, just, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And, then when I wanted to be human, I realized that I had to choose the mind as the first like baseline construct to build this reality. And in the process, I went, oh my God, this is why we forget. Because in the first space where I knew I wasn't human, I couldn't have been, because I was so fully embodied, not human, that I don't know how I could have been. So I asked the same thing you did. I said, can I remember a little? Can I like remember just a little so that I can bring something back? And so, I guess for whatever it is that I am giving to people as information is like the little I remember.
That's beautiful. I love it so much. It makes me so excited. It's like trying to download the entire internet through a landline connection or something.
Yeah,
You just can't
it's trying to
possibly
swallow
do it.
the ocean through like a stir
Tiny
straw, like a stir stick straw.
It's just
You're
not
like,
going to happen.
oh
And
my
then
God.
someone's like, here, and they hand you a straw, and they're like, okay, now tell us about the ocean. It's like, that's not happening.
It's too
But the
much.
thing is, you are the ocean. Like right now, like you're back. Like here you are, right?
Yeah.
You've collapsed back down. You're folded back down into the limited human mind. You're doing an awesome thing, an awesome job. You're sharing this information. You're being alive. You're sharing love. It's beautiful. And now you're here. But the big you is still the big you. It never went anywhere. It never shifted. So like that is kind of like widening the straw in a sense, allowing that to flow through and remind others of their oceanness.
It's like an aperture, right? Like you're not ever not the whole thing.
That's right.
But you just narrow into this very small spectrum, and you go, this is my aperture. It doesn't mean this isn't there and happening. It's just, this is where I'm looking right now. And that my experience is that the more spiritual, the more sort of higher vibrational frequency, whatever, I don't even know exactly the right words to put to it, is that you just kind of increase the aperture a little bit.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love it. It's a great analogy. I just want to comment. So part of increasing the aperture, I think when people talk about that, they think, oh, increasing the aperture means leaving the physical, leaving, all I am as a human. Well, actually, if you, through meditation, if you totally investigate your awareness, what you really are underneath thinking, you create some space through which you see the thoughts for what they are. And then you can actually, with full alertness, be human. Like actually, oh, wow, I actually have these thoughts. Oh, wow, I actually have this discomfort in my body. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, I'm actually afraid because I feel old, or, whatever it is, whatever the thing is that you're dealing with. Processing that widens the aperture. It's not like you're trying to leave, oh, the physical stinks, so I'm going to try to leave. Well, you're never really all the way here anyway. But once you fully integrate what's here, the aperture can't help but widen, because now you're no longer limited. There's a metaphor too for this. When my father was a little kid, I mentioned this in the book, he was afraid of a closet in his room when he was going to sleep every night as a child. And every night he would lay there in bed and he would be terrified of what was in the closet. And one night he's like, screw this, I am sick of being afraid of this closet. So he charged into the closet, pushed his way through the clothes, and sat down on the floor, fully expecting to be eaten by the monsters in the closet.
For sure.
He was not eaten by the monsters in the closet. And to this day, my father is not afraid of closets. Now, I know that sounds silly, but our fears are not that dissimilar. We may have difference in scope. We may have had years of abuse or years of pain, whatever. But when you really go into it, when you really go into that dark closet and say, all right, I'm ready to get eaten by this monster, there is no monster. And then that aperture expands, it opens, because now you've actually gone and processed without even trying, by going and looking and seeing there is nothing to be afraid of. That opens the aperture automatically. It's beautiful. I love that. I love that metaphor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Well, okay. Thank you so much. I've taken enough of your time, and I just love the way that you're able to articulate things, and thank you for sharing your story. And yeah, I'm excited for you, and congratulations on a book. There's so much work, and especially on such a generous book that you have made available if someone really wants to read it. But for most people, I hope they go to Amazon and get it, or go buy it on audio, because you deserve a little credit for your experience of sharing it and helping.
And thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for the work you're doing. I think it's fantastic. It's excellent when people who are more known in the mainstream can say, you know what, this actually is happening, because it is real. It's not just woo-woo stuff. So thank you very much for your service and making it available to people and the way that you serve. Thanks for bringing that straw back down and being a straw, being a,
Yeah. Well, awesome. Obviously I signed up for something to do with this stuff. So I have always actually felt like my career was what it was, but that it was actually just a way to build a platform for this, because this feels more important in a way.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks everybody for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.